Tonight, we're welcoming two poets that I deeply, deeply admire. I'm a big fangirl of Sarah Dowling's. I was gushing over the gorgeous Entering Sappho. I first heard Sarah read from this a number of months ago and was salivating. So I will simply say what a pleasure and what a perfect pairing for Sarah to be opening for Travis Sharp this evening. I'm going to read her bio for you. Sarah Dowling is the author of Down and Security Posture, which received the Robert Kretsch Award for Innovative Poetry. A literary critic as well as poet, Sarah's first scholarly book, Translingual Poetics, Writing Personhood Under Settler Colonialism, was a finalist for the American Studies Association Laura Romero Prize. Sarah is assistant professor in the Center for Comparative Literature and Victoria College at the University of Toronto. This is her latest, Entering Sappho, put out by Coach House Books. It's a treasure. I'm going to put the link up for you to be able to purchase this. And the debut full-length collection of Travis Sharp, Yes, I Am a Corpse Flower. And I would love to read Travis's bio now, and I'll say a little something and segue between the two poets. Travis Sharp is a writer, editor, book artist, and teacher living in Buffalo, NY. He's the author of the chapbook Sinister Queer Agenda and the artist's book 1+1 is 2 ones. With Amy Harrison and Maria Anderson, he's co-hosted or co-edited Radio 11816 from Essay Press, a collection of essays by Essay Press authors about the 2016 US presidential election. Travis has an MFA in creative writing and poetics from the University of Washington, Buffalo, and is a PhD candidate in the University at Buffalo Poetics program. Since 2019, Travis is the executive editor at Essay Press. And if you're not familiar with Essay Press, please go to their website. They do absolutely stunning, gorgeous work. So, first and foremost, please join me in welcoming Sarah Dowling.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. I was just saying to Travis and to Kirby before everyone else came in that I met Travis in 2013, I believe it was. So I've been awaiting the publication of his debut collection for a very long time. And I could not be more excited to not just be present for this, but to actually be, playing an active role is extremely, extremely wonderful to me. And I'm very, very honored and happy to be here. So first of all, congratulations, Travis. This is a very big deal, and I could not be more thrilled for you. I was thinking about what I wanted to read tonight that would sort of honor my sense of who Travis is as a poet. And I chose two little bits from Entering Sappho, which Kirby was mentioning earlier. And this is a book that's takes its title from a road sign in Washington State on the Pacific Coast Highway. Travis and I met one another in Washington State, those many years ago. So there's a sort of tie-in to my knowledge of Travis in that regard, but also the poems are about how this no longer existing town in Washington State came to be known as Sappho, and they sort of play through different archives related to the settlement of this region and its sort of non-relationship to the actual poet Sappho. So I picked out first three kind of sonnetish poems that I think have a very arch tone that comes from their sources that sort of reminded me in a certain sense of Travis's sense of humor. So these poems are from the section Neoclassical Place Names of North America. And their own little title is This Word I Want. Tell us about the Mediterranean realm and the visions of their American patrons. Tell us about the hollow frontier of Mount Olympus and the frontier by which we exceed it. In these ancient and modern times, we've done so many things. Tell us about the thick swarm of gods and the 50 Albions and our own kleptographic hands and our vicious greed for beauty. Teach us to believe that these names were plucked from our best dormant traits, pulled from a belt of elusive gods who personify the evening. Teach us to run our snow fingers down the valleys of blue waste. Show us how to lap the warm, wet edges of possession sound. In our period of birth and consolidation, daughter colonies spread outward, open. We have recorded 2,405 classical names scoring the rocks, pounding the flanks of these northern peripheral zones. A rural settlement pattern, a belt in the shape of a bent isosceles, this migration front is thick with fresh adoptions. We're filling in the holes. We are a pattern of blotches across this uniform nutrient medium. Aurum, Cyprum, Eureka, college towns bravely christened Exotica, decorate these resinous slopes and mountain basins. A zodiac of ancient characters documents our extroverted buoyancy, our scatter over soft and bushy lands. Mythological personages supplement lively post offices. What they most resemble is a pantheon of hungry dogs. What they most resemble is an advanced stage of a bacterial culture. What we most resemble is the end of the world. We are conspicuous. We pluck the strings of historical association and make another exclusion. We are a winnowing, a slow tick of the intellectual pacemaker, a growing edge. Wait till they get up close. This movement happened in more than 100 cities: Agricola, Bovina, Pomona, Marathon, Akron, Ajax, Salix, and others extending in a long line below the wet cloud blanket. So those are my three little sonnets, if you will. The next selection that I wanted to read is a longer one. It's called Us, and it's sort of playing through a different type of source. And these are some kind of unpublished short memoirs of people who grew up in the area of this settlement, SAPPHO, who lived there as children. And I wanted to read this one kind of in honor of Transgender Visibility Day, because I think of all my poems, it has the most complex and multiple gender. And I know that Travis and I have both been interested in the relationship between the kinds of making of gender that can take place in poetry and the kinds of making of gender that can take place in the world. So I felt it would be an appropriate one for this evening. So this is Us. You may forget, but I remember well one day how thrilled I was when I took little Annie Schofield by the hand, a blood red rose flaming with all the long buried passions of the South. I had many dolls, but my favorite was a lady in a red dress. I helped her along from rock to rock in the shallow water at the river's edge. In the pale Gothic garden, there burst something you may forget, but our minds worked overtime on what we would like to have. After a great deal of coaxing, I called her my little red girl. You may forget, but occasionally the law has its revenge, and I had been promised. The intoxicating odor had become a delicate perfume. You may forget, but I remember well the shallow water, the river's edge, how I took her by the hand, helped her along from rock to rock, little red-haired Annie Schofield there, how I was flaming, a blood red rose. Think of Dorr, who was a big, strong boy. You may forget, but I had been promised a pair of boots which were to come by mail from Tacoma. I had been promised roses of Lesbos, which turned a pallid pink, and you may forget, but my brother Elmer was to bring them from Pisht, and I waited on the riverbank, dancing up and down and hollering with all the long-braid possessions of the South, with the children and their dolls. You may forget, but the pale Gothic gardens, my pretty little boots budded and bloomed and withered all unseen, or seen by but a single eye. You may forget, but my pretty boots proved to be a pair of men's number 9 shoes in which I might have lost myself. You may forget, but pale lilies of fancy, passionate roses of desire blossomed there.
Let me tell you that I might have lost myself. I'm gonna use that. Let me tell you that I might have lost myself. Let me tell you about this terrible red gash across my face. You may forget, but Mr. Gorder, who was youthful and spry in spite of his long red beard, was cruising out of his claim one day. He lay silent but breathing, unconscious, and with his big 44 strapped to his side. You may forget, but Dor was a big, strong boy, and let me tell you this about the long braid passions of the sound. Let me tell you about their intoxicating odor, which becomes a delicate perfume. Let me tell you I had many dolls, but my favorite was a lady in a red dress, and I called her my little Rose of Lesbos. Let me tell you how she turned a pallid pink and then bloomed and withered all unseen. The children colored red boots. They came by mail from Tacoma. The children colored that up. With all the long braid passions of the South, red roses of desire blossom. I had many dolls, but my favorite was the pale lilies of fancy, the passionate blood lady in a red dress. Someone in some future time will think that I helped her along from rock to rock in the shallow water at the river's edge, a little red girl who was to come this way from Tacoma. In the pale Gothic garden, I had been promised 3 births, something, someone, and some future. You may forget, but like our minds worked overtime on what we would like to have. You may forget that one day with my little red girl in my pretty red boots when they came by mail from Tacoma. I had been cruising out of my claim. I had been promised roses of Lesbos. I had turned a pallid pink. I had been promised a beard. I was youthful and spry in spite of this, and you may forget, but my brother Elmer was to bring me dolls which I would dash on the rocks. After a great deal of coaxing, someone in some future time would call this my little red fancy, my passionate edge. You may forget, but occasionally the pretty boots have their revenge, and I had been promised. Mr. Gorder, who was from Pishton, and I waited for some future children. I thought of them on the riverbank, dancing up and down, their delicate breathing, their intoxicating 44. I lay silent but breathing, unconscious, and let me tell you this big Gothic rose was strapped to my side. Let me tell you that I might have lost myself. Let me tell you about my favorite who was wearing a dress and pretty little boots, my pretty red boots. Let me tell you this, I had been promised. Let me tell you this, I rocked her in the shallow red of the river water. Someone in some future time will think how thrilled I was. Someone in some future time will think we lay silent but breathing, that my favorite was unconscious. You may forget that I'm a big, strong boy. You may forget that I had many dolls. Let me tell you this about long braid possession. Let me tell you about the sound. I waited among red lilies, hollering and strapped with this, a big 44 at my side. And with that, I will turn it over to Travis. Congratulations, Travis. I'm so happy for you.
Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It meant so much when you responded and said, yes, you could do this evening. And here's why. Entering SAPPHO, pick this up. Please pick this up. A few things before we bring Travis on. A few winters ago, Travis showed up with a friend, Michael Flatt, fellow poet Michael Flatt, at Knife Fork Book. It was a cold, cold winter night. We were in the back salon area of the shop, kind of cozy and intimate. I remember Walwyn being there and a few others. And it was such a beautiful reading because we were so intimate. It was virtually a living room. And I listening to Travis read from, at that time, Sinister Queer Agenda that was put out by Above Ground. And I was so enthralled with the work. You know, I'm coming up, there's a new book I have coming out called Poetry is Queer. And it is, because it fucks with language. And I can't tell you what it means to me at this time in my life to hear fresh queer, and queer in a whole new way. And that's what we have here, a whole new pocket of gay. And I am overjoyed that we were able to publish your work, Travis. I want to take a moment to thank my comrade in crime, Ralph Kaleve, who did the design work and made the book look really, really pretty, executed this beautiful cover that I designed. And John DeJesus at Coach House lovingly took care of us. This is this is only our second full-length book that we put out at KFB. It comes in a beautiful metallic stamped cover, of course, the gorgeous Zephyr paper, and the extraordinary debut of Travis Sharp. Travis, thanks for coming that night. Almost everybody that's been published at KFB, I've met through KFB at one time or another. And thanks for coming. Anyway, without further ado, please join me in celebrating and welcoming Travis Sharp.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kirby. Thanks, Sarah. Oh, anyway, there's too much. I'm not going to try to say anything. Too many feelings. But thanks so much, everyone, for being here. Thanks, Kirby, for putting this together. Thanks so much, Sarah, for coming and reading. I also am just especially glad that you were reading with me, Sarah, since you read so much of these poems, so many of these poems in their very early stages back in Seattle. So I feel like they've been, in no small part ferried by you. But also I think a lot of my sense of poetry performance also comes out of working with you and just knowing you as a poet, which is really quite gratifying. So thanks so much. Okay, so this is the book, Fresh Queer on Sale, as as Kirby has it, hot off the presses, etc. I am not going to talk too much about the book right away. I'm just going to sort of dive into the reading and might sort of, come back as I'm drawn, etc. Okay. Is my volume good? Yeah. Okay. Feel free to yell at me, Kirby, if I get too quiet. Okay. So I'm going to read out of order, and partly that's because I was inspired by the recent Brendan Fraser discourse on Twitter to start off with this poem, Love Song to a Young Brendan Fraser. The boy is connected to the cock, and the cock is constricted by the ass, and the ass is described in a complement, and the complement is connected to the mouth, and the mouth is connected to the esophagus, and the esophagus is replicated in a sex toy that is in the recommendation section on Amazon. And the recommendation section on Amazon describes the sex toy as containing ridges that stimulate the penis and simulate the texture of the throat. And the texture of the throat is connected to the tongue, and the tongue is connected to another tongue, and another tongue is connected to another body, and another body has an arm, and an arm is connected to my thigh, and my thigh is connected to my knee, and my knee is connected to his hips, and his hips are connected to my hands, and my hands are connected to my skull, and my skull is connected to my skin, and my skin is connected to the mattress, and the mattress is connected to semen left by the other body, and the other body is connected to a steering wheel, and the steering wheel is connected to a vehicle, and the vehicle is connected to the road, and the road is connected to tax dollars that we didn't have to pay because we were poor, and our poor was connected to our parents' poor, and our parents' poor is connected to the trailer park, and the trailer park is connected to a memory of when I was a child watching TV, and the TV was connected to the VCR, and the VCR was connected to a VHS, and the VHS contained a film, and the film was George of the Jungle, and George was my first crush, and my first crush was connected to my tiny mattress, and my tiny mattress was connected to me cuddling with George, my head connected to his chin, my hand connected to his hair. So the next one will be a bit of a longer poem. The book has a number of either long poems or long series of poems, which made deciding what to read a bit tricky. Did not do myself any favors. So I'm going to read next one of the longer poems from near the end of the book called Protein Shakes, a Biography. He is the sized queen. All his life he's been measured, his volume and his height, his width, his depth. His first words were measuring tape, and his second were slower, please. Slower, please, he said when tickled. Slower, please, he said when touched. At times he feels mechanical. He grew up in a loving machine. It found him, took him in, fed him cotton candy, bathed him in glitter, filled his head with dangerous cogs. They went everywhere, touched everything, learned how people work the machine, taught him how to love the inanimate. He taught the machine how to love the inanimate. They gave one another no name. The boy and the machine became a local sensation, in line at the credit union, in line at the pediatrician, in line at the grocery store, the boy in a cart, the machine pushing the cart, neighbors taking pictures, neighbors talking, neighbors coming over to say hello, to investigate their home life. But where is the crib? Where is the sink? The neighbor children say, your machine is so cool, the boy agrees. But where is the small blanket? Where is the warmed milk? The machine did its best, but the boy fell behind, was well unspoken. What is the word for sing me the alphabet like we practiced? The boy goes, ah, goes, la. The boy falters, does poorly on exams, trips often, and covered in bruises and bad marks. The boy quiets. After years of silence, the machine grows concerned and then grows tired. The boy invents a language of gestures. Nudge once for this, blink twice for that, tap, tap, and noiseless sigh. The machine is impressed by the boy's resourcefulness. Even in silence, he gets his way. The machine's favored child. He is a puffed up princess, a jewel in no one's eyes. The world grew outside. The machine grows its skepticism, waters it with suspicion of the boy's beauty, and eager to wreck it. The boy is impressed into objectness by onlookers. A doll, such a beautiful doll, but where is its string? They pull and pull, they tug and tug and penetrate, they dig deeper. A doll's life is a happy life, the machine says each morning, but the boy is inconsolable. With each gaze, he becomes more plastic, and onlookers, giddy at it all, want to touch his hairless skin, shining and reflective. He forgets what it feels like to not be touched. A happy doll is a pretty doll is a happy doll. A doll made pretty is a doll made happy, a doll made happy is a doll made pretty. A doll is a doll, a doll is a doll. A doll is 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 a doll a doll is 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 a the chant rhythmic and penetrating. The boy self-exiles to a dark room, damp and full of spiders. The boy loves it. I want only spiders to touch me. The machine nods, promises the boy everything. You will be bored always, and that's all I've ever wanted for you. But the machine grows tired. The machine stops making lights. The machine stops, and the boy breaks every tool trying to fix it, loses track of time, running hands on the machine's surfaces. He takes the machine apart, puts it back together, each time in different configurations. The third time, he puts on the finishing touches, touches the machine's face, asks its name. There is no answer. He takes the machine into himself, dripping its oil into his blood, its grease into his spinal fluid, wears its washers, clamps and nuts as rings, and buries the rest. In solitude, he encounters such inexhaustible trauma. It's exhausting, as in it draws the water out of him. The boy grows thin and ill. He falls in love with the snakes and the shakes of his breaking body, breaking fluid, leaking out, colorless and tasty and seductive and fragile and fucked and fractured and fragrant and almost but not quite flagrant. And he's learned to look at himself often, inspect his legs, spread wide his arms, wiggle his fingers, examine every spot in the bathroom. Putting on pants, he looks at himself in the mirror, putting on the pants, sucking in his stomach, tightening leg muscles, standing on toes, losing his balance, falling over. He begins to produce desire at alarming rates. The desire, rhythmic and penetrating. He moves to the city and becomes famous. His desire makes him a star. All the men know him. They can smell him from a mile away. This popularity is confused for sharp business acumen. So the boy gets a small business license, begins selling his desire at market rate. The desire cascades. It outgrows him, seeps through blended fabric clothing. The boy gathers pails, buckets, bowls, large cups to gather it up and serve it up as soup, as souffle, as a type of pastry, as a gravy. He opens a restaurant for daddies, men at every table, sopping up desire with biscuits, licking it off their fingers, men going, mmm. The men go, and the desire stops flowing, gets stopped up in pores, making the boy self-conscious, making the men angry. A crowd forms, a riot, a scene. It's so much to take in. The men go, and it's so much to take in. Daddy's banging on the door. The door goes, ah. The men go, ooh. The boy goes, the rhythmic and penetrating. The boy grows and outgrows his arms, grows out new wings. His span is unmeasured, but glam, fab, and too cute. He is acute as a button falling off from overuse. Protean, as in drinking protein shakes. With each serving, he grows something new. Talons to hunt his prey, a cat's tongue to show affection, a dog's tail to show submission, the paws of a lioness, the beak of a parakeet, the glow of a jellyfish, to awe, to fear. All right, next up is I still have no money, but I'm still cute. Am gesturing, am gesticulating, am gestating, am just stating the obvious. My gender is faggot in need of a daddy. I have a lot of student loans. Boy in distress, boy, classic boy, chic boy in classy clothes with a classy theme song. Hear me. I eat men like hair. I am well defined. Well, look at these borders. This body bordered with confusion, confused with gentilest gender. My gentlest ginger is a gingerly touching. My gender is on the market with pictures of my gender done up in designer. Is expensive, cheap, chic, looks fucking amazing on a mannequin, a headless mannequin in a department store, looking at my hips thrust sideways. It looks uncomfortable, but powerful, the sexiest plastic thighs you have ever seen. A man in a jersey has to excuse himself. These hairless plastic thighs wrapped tightly around his neck. He can't, okay, but really my gender eats sprinkles and shits glitter and eats glitter and shits glitter and eats shit. So fab, my gender, so ready to till the soil of those bones so tender. Body is gasping, gaping. And then I'm going to read, my final set of readings will be from this series called I Guess We Should Talk About Our Feelings. A lot of these poems, so I guess I should preface these poems by pointing out that a lot of them are really like tongue-in-cheek, sort of like, you know, like writing to the poet, writing to the poet's body, with the awareness that there is no distinction between the two of them. You know, so there's a lot of slippage there. This body is a daffodil. I stare and sniff every chance I get. If sadness is a form of resistance, then we're doing very well, body. It's just a matter of modulation, of meter the output of how much we haven't been saying to one another in the span of time spent not wondering about the output of what we have been signaling to other bodies. And what would that be? We like to role play some evenings. Up against the wall back, arched, hair-shorn, hands in praise, body I've been researching for a means to break you into a cipher able form, a means to a restart of your sext engine, looking for, is there connective tissue hold? Ingus, is this vital organs? Is this reproductive mannerisms? Is this thing your epidermis? Is this spread eagle? Is this a break age in performativity? You repeat actions. I repeating. Body, my love for you has me on my knees, taken up by your virulent strain of kinesthetic groveling. Is kinesthetic the one involving movement? Action is a violent state. English is a violent language. Fertilize is a violent word, and you wanted to be a victim of it, body. You took a bus to a gated community on your knees on the manicured lawn, licked the fertilizer from the ground, licked the rotted insect corpses, licked the rotted leaves. I licked. The closer I look, the more your her is showing. I have your anthropos morphized into an animatronic shell body. You carry it on your back, the better to break us in to this. A lonely, a mimetic, a stable boy is what you were in a previous life, ashamed of your heritage, of your insistence on exposing in inappropriate circumstances. Think of repent, of revoke, of class action lawsuit. Think of and do it anyway. I couldn't afford to name a star after you, body, so I wrote a dictionary entry instead. A noun meaning the position where opposing directions meet, a verb meaning you hide your dictionary self from us, your detritus, the adjective of anxiety and the adverb of delimit. Historically speaking, there is precedent for being mistaken for litigious when all you wanted was to rekindle our marriage with a bit of jurisprudence. That's all it takes, they said, a forever of walking on our eggshell skin, body, and forgetting our partitioned, pin-chanted position. And forget this apologetic, even divorced and floating, we are prone to stagnant waters. This is the sexiest love poem I can write. I'm so tired. Is exhaustion a symptom or a cause? I feel affected by this. Do you feel it too, body? Encroaching on, waking to, rolling over, tired moments. I mean, a constant remembering and monuments to your form, your face of stone, your heart of stone. Reject, 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 reject. Ejaculation. Is that a symptom or a syntax? Do you remember the man you loved who was allergic to his own semen? I feel like that with you. You're a handsome body, come home with me. I know I can be pedantic, body, forcing you into form, in, out, up, down, large, small, 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 smaller, rounding out the bag, putting you into ill-fitting, the form sick with it all. And to what end? I can't speak, can't seek, can't articulate. You were always better with words, body. Let me rack this ability to distinguish between this and that sense of I. And wait, there was a time when I could be mistaken for unfortunate. Body product is an appropriate way to say I love you. And I do, yes, I eat bodies, I shoplift identity, despite I never understanding your ability to change in size and shape. For whom? To what grammar? I have a lot of feelings. I need a whole hand to count them. I've tried listening, body, but with endless distractions. Your tick-tock, your metronome rhyme, me, body, a clock with optical illusions. You undulate, you pulse and sing. And I hear, I see a body on display, the clack of heels, the sigh of makeup made up with body feels a slight test thud, a noticeable motive in chest, a trimmed knee is what I've given you, body. And what is your return policy? I hear a return within 30 days, what to return with receipt, but there is no. Don't leave hospital without proof of purchase. I didn't hear what are options? Do you work for them? With it, you're a worker. Body, is that why I can't hear with all this noise? A body grammar handbook. Repeat again, I love. Repeat again, I love. But in what manner, what to wear, to touch to? Can I borrow a body grammar handbook, a reference guide? Here is my homoglossia, you and I on the floor, licking your language, licking my language, licking your language, licking my language. Do you like it on your adverbs, antecedents? Repeat again, I put you in the tub and washed you gently, took you to the kitchen to feed you, took you to bed to hold you, took you to sleep to cure you, took you to language to point you out. I remember when they took part of me away. After they were finished, I found the machine and put you inside of it and found even more to love. Thanks.
Travis, thank you so very much. The poet is Travis Sharp. The debut, yes, I am a corpse flower. You can find it now at knifeforkbook.shop. Your word of mouth is greatly appreciated. I am so thrilled that all of you came tonight to celebrate. And thanks again to Sarah Dowling with entering SAPPHO. What a great night. Thanks for joining us, everyone. knifeforkbook.shop. We'll talk to you soon. Much love.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.